Afternoon, if you're joining us, I'm Zoe from Phoenix Life and Wellbeing Coaching, and I am joined this afternoon with Lesley Waldron, a women's health coach. So if you haven't tuned into any of these before, you are joining us for Fire 5 at Phoenix. So we have people coming and joining me each month. We have a topic each month. This month we're looking at our physical health, and so Lesley's joining me this afternoon. Lesley has 5 questions with her. I have not yet seen these questions, so we'll be having a conversation and a bit of a Q&A around physical health for the next sort of half hour, 45 minutes. So Lesley, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Oh, thank you very much, Zoe. So my name is Lesley Waldron and I run a women's health coaching business called Wild Country Women. I support and encourage time-poor women in their 40s to live a wildly well life. So I run outdoor fitness sessions, one-to-one online coaching, and I have an online membership as well. And I really believe that women need to understand how to live well, to live wildly well, to feel good inside and out, and that they need to know how and why to do it. So rather than telling them what to do, I encourage them to explore what works well for them. And I love it.
And that's so important, isn't it? I think in helping, and I think that's the advantage of, or one of the benefits of coaching, isn't it? Yes. Is that it's not about us giving people the answers. It's about giving people that time and some guidance to explore the best answers for themselves. And I love the wild woman. Mm. I love that theme. I love that topic. I love the fact that you're outside working with people, although it's throwing it down at the moment. But that doesn't stop you, does it?
No. In fact, there's something actually really extra special about getting an absolute drenching, and then knowing, having the good fortune to go back inside and dry off. And as I'm a big believer in practicing gratitude, and the gratitude I have for dry clothes, a hot shower, and a hot cup of tea after a drenching at 6:30 in the morning for an outdoor workout. Really, it's pretty.
You lost me at 6:30 in the morning, but up until then, I was right with you. Not at 6:30 in the morning.
I'm an early bird.
Yeah. See, my brain is awake, but I like the first sort of hour of the morning. I like that quiet time. So getting up and jumping around is, that's an evening thing for me.
Yeah.
So.
And that's such an important thing to know, exactly. that works for you. Absolutely.
Exactly. So you are more likely to find me running around at 9-10 o'clock at night than you are at certainly not 6 o'clock in the morning. So have you got some questions for me?
I have, yes.
Should we get straight into it?
Let's go for it. So well-being is a big part of how and why you and I both help people. But I wanted to know, what role does activity and exercise play in your own personal life and well-being right now? And what holds you accountable?
Good question. So right now the gyms are back open, so I'm back in at spin classes, which I've really missed over lockdown. Certainly from my perspective, and I had this came up with Jamal in last week's chat of how being active is really important to me. So I found not being able to go to classes during lockdown when the gym was shut, and the accountability of classes, I find really difficult. So there, we've got workout equipment at home. We've got YouTube workouts, but I found it really difficult to get into that routine and show up and do any kind of exercise. And certainly jumping around in the front room was just didn't tick the box for me. So actually in the last sort of month, 2 months, I started going out running again, just because I needed to move. I needed to be outside and I needed to move. So I walked, when the weather was really nice, I was going for walks. And then when the weather started to turn a little bit, I started going out for runs. But it's been really nice to get back into the spin classes, and over the last week I've started to add in some sort of strength training workouts alongside it. So I wasn't walking very well. The first week I went back into the weight section. I did really struggle a little bit. So for me, it's the accountability of classes. It's booking into the classes, and then I can build that into my routine. So the classes at the gym are always the same time. So it goes into the calendar. I can book them in for weeks in advance, and then I can work around that rather than trying to fit it in around a pre-existing routine. So for me, it's almost that's where the sessions go in, and then work gets built in around it. So I've done that for a long time. I think that for me is how I can keep it a priority. But it's not just my physical health, it's my mental health as well. If I'm not out and moving, all of my clients are here in the computer. So whereas you get to get outside and move around with yours, I can sit here all day and not move. So that's really important to me, to try and get those booked in as much as possible.
That's really, thank you for that. That's great.
Right.
So lockdown for many people changed habits and lifestyle almost overnight. And as we head back into new normal, I'm starting to get annoyed with the phrase new normal. I think it's just new. Let's go for just new. Let's not forget about normal. Let's go to next stage.
Yeah.
But so people are wanting to get back into sustainable exercise habits, sustainable healthy habits. What would some of your key tips be for people who are struggling to do that, to make the one kind of thing worked in lockdown, and now life is kind of getting busy again? What would be your tips? You talked about accountability and about classes and programming it in. Somebody's not used to that, doesn't have access to the gym. What would be some of the tips that you might give?
I think one of it's just making the small changes that you can be consistent with, and then building on those. And I think you probably see this in your world as well, is people think that they know where they want to get to, or they have a really good idea of where they want to get to, especially with physical health, because it's quite clear cut, isn't it? They want to be they want to look a certain way, they want to be able to do something particular, or they want to have a certain level of health. So they're very sort of tangible goals, aren't they, with health, with that side of things. So I think people look to see where they want to get to, and then it's almost people look for the quickest way to get there, and then it's not always sustainable. In fact, most of the time it's not sustainable. So it's almost like they want to get from A to B at 100 miles an hour, and they don't have either the type of car or the enough fuel in the engine that's going to make that happen. So it's like, okay, look at where you are now. I think it's definitely a good idea to have an idea of where you want to get to, but break that down and chunk that down and put some milestones in of where, if you want to get to this point, what are the milestones that you can pick out between where you are now and there, and then just start working towards each milestone rather than the complete end goal. So it might be, being able to walk a couple of laps around the block. That might be the first milestone. The second milestone might be walking a couple of laps in a certain amount of time, or it might be a dress size, or it might be being able to walk at a certain speed and get your breath back a lot quicker. Whatever the goal is, there'll be different milestones. But I think it's, for me, sustainable and consistency are probably the two things that are key. But also it's around, you probably haven't had the habits and behaviors that you have at the moment, you've probably had for quite a long time. It's going to take some time to get to where you want to get to. So give yourself some time to do that, and not try and, you're not going to get to a certain goal in a month's time. So you need to set yourself something that is sustainable, that fits in with your routine. So a lot of what I talk about with people is how much energy, mental and physical energy, you've got to invest in this. So it's not just the emotional investment of how much do you want this to happen, but also how much mental and physical energy have you got to invest in making this happen, and adjusting that until you've got something that is sustainable and something that you can be consistent with and that you want to be consistent with. Because I think sometimes there's a disconnect between what people want and then what people can show up to, and then people just get, you know, they get disappointed or they give themselves a hard time because they've not shown up in the way that they said they would, when actually that might not have been realistic in the first place.
Yeah.
So absolutely. I think that would be, you know, look at where you are now, look at where you want to get to, but break it down into those smaller milestones and look at what those milestones are, and then just build on where you are now. So if you can walk for a mile this week, aim for 1.5 miles next week, and just, you know, there's no point in going from a mile to a marathon. It's not going to happen.
Yeah,
end up upset, disappointed, all of those other emotions that aren't necessarily helpful. I mean, is that kind of in line with the work that you
absolutely. You're singing from the same song sheet. Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, this week I'm running a free challenge called the Feel Good Factor Challenge, where we're covering exactly that, you know, knowing where you are. Like, that is like, I loved your analogy about having the right car and the right fuel in the car, because what I've been talking about is, okay, you might be setting your sat nav to a certain direction,
yeah.
But if you don't know where the start point is, then your journey is going nowhere. You know,
yeah.
So you have to start with the start point, with this, you know, understanding where you are, and then often, because if your energy is on the floor and you're not sleeping and you're eating really badly, then is going all out on physical exercise actually the best bet?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's
finding ways of prioritizing where the focus is, and what is, you need to know the goal, but you can't necessarily. The goal needs to be realistic, so you need to start with where you are. Otherwise, you're going to set unrealistic, like running a marathon in 6 weeks' time.
And you must see it as well. People set the sat nav, they get really excited about where they're heading towards, and then they get in the car and they try and start in gear 3. And then they like a little bit, and then it's like, and then it kind of stutters and stalls, and then it all gets thrown out the window. Well, I can't do it. It's just impossible. And it's like, it is possible, just not in the way that you're trying. And if you've been trying to do it like this for quite a long time and it's not got you where you wanted to get to yet, that probably then you need to look at, okay, what methods are you trying, and to try something different. So out of interest, can people still sign up to your chat? If anyone's watching now,
yeah, they can. Start today. So if people want to sign up for it, then that is perfect.
We'll pop the link in the comments for people that catch it today to join. I think challenges like this, I did one last week, but I think short challenges to give people a bit of a taster, and a short focus can be really helpful.
Absolutely. And September is that time of year when we want and need a little bit of we kind of want, you know, new pencils, new trainers, you know, let's do something that's a bit new. And with the kids going back to school, for many of the women in my audience, it is a chance to go, okay, I've got a little bit of time for myself. And not even knowing where to start, because you've been looking after everyone else for so long. So my hope is that this is about helping people find that start point and start moving forwards. Yeah.
And I think it's that now's a really good opportunity to create a new routine as well, isn't it? Because we've gone from, you know, I think the women that you're working with, they've gone from potentially being at home working and homeschooling to home working and school holiday entertainment, to now the children going back to school, which gives, I think it's almost that, I think September more than January is a good place, because the weather changes, the season changes, you've got a new month, new academic year, the clocks are going to change, so it feels like there's a change rather than January not so much. So I think it's a good opportunity to create a new routine.
Do new things, and actually I also think that there's something about September where kind of as we go into the autumn, like you look at nature, I think a lot of time outside, you look at what nature is doing, and there is a sense of change, isn't there? There's a change and there's a letting go. And so I think it's a good time. What can you let go? What can you let go of that's been holding you back? What can you let go of that allows space for new growth, and that new you can blossom? You know, that you're putting down roots now for your goals, which you might not get there until the spring. So look at what nature is telling you, and
it's all stripping back, isn't it? It's stripping back, looking at the bare branches, the bare roots, and then growing into something new. So I think the seasons are such a great analogies, aren't they, for change? But I think autumn, winter, spring, and then really coming into your own in summer, and that kind of blossom and growth, isn't it? But I think the seasons are a great analogy for change. But autumn is stripping back, isn't it? Stripping back, leaving behind. Winter, looking at, I think, your core roots, who you are as a person, and then growing again from there. And I think when just people who work on their personal development quite a lot, tend to go through those seasons. So they'll grow, over the year, and then they have that kind of review and okay, what do I want to change? That leave old habits behind that are no longer useful, and then go again. So I think we should work on ourselves as the world works on itself with the seasons.
Absolutely. Be more tree. That's what I like.
I like it.
Trees tend to feature quite a lot in any kind of metaphors that I use in my coaching as well.
Yeah, well, I think especially with your theme of the world country, world woman, I think it's a great way. And I tend to go, I think the phoenix has that similar analogy, doesn't
it? Yes.
The ashes and the rebirth, and stronger and more powerful. So they're very, very similar, aren't they, in terms of what it means.
Yeah. And women are cyclical beings. Every month we are, and so actually you can use. I quite often use that with women I work with as well. You can use the analogy of the seasons of the year and bring them into a menstrual cycle as well. Ovulation as being summer and peak energy, and autumn and winter as shedding and ovulating. And that actually, if we work with those energies, we, and that you can do that, and then that can help us with falling off the wagon with our own accountability, because actually you say, well, do you know what? There's going to be a week and a half in the month where I'm not going to have that level of energy. I need to rein it back in.
Yeah. And I wasn't really aware personally of that until I was sort of strength training, and then was trying to understand why something that felt so easy to lift the week before suddenly couldn't get it off of the floor. And I think there's a lot more research now in for women who work in strength, but also women in sport in general. But again, all of these things, it plays down into day-to-day life as well.
So they're actually using it. I think the US women's national team, football team, they were really I remember seeing several articles about how they were using menstrual cycle tracking to actually and integrating that with their training. And they won the World Cup, so you've got
anyway, strength. You've got a peak week. You want to be able to utilize that, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. Yeah, to be able to use it, but equally to know if somebody is menstruating, that you might still be able to get amazing judgment out of them because they're more kind of really tuned into their intuition. But you wouldn't want them to play a whole match, so you might bring them in at the end. So I think that's what I think about as well. But talking about strength training, I wonder if I can ask you question number 3.
Yes,
So in 2016, you were Britain's second strongest woman. That's amazing.
I got a little trophy and everything.
Yeah. What was that actually like to win? What was the behind the scenes experience for you on that day? That's what I'd like to know.
It's weird, isn't it? Because it's obviously the longer time goes on, the further away it is. But it's still, I can remember it like it was yesterday. And I think it's an interesting. It was a great day for me for lots of different reasons. Firstly, I think from a training perspective, things had gone really well. So my training plan right up through to the day had gone really well. I'd started to look at my mindset a lot more, where in the competitions up until then, I had really struggled with that. So I'd done a lot of work around sort of mindset and that internal chapter. But the events on the day a lot of them were moving events, and that was kind of where my strength was. So I'd always found that challenge of the more static events. There were lots of women who also were powerlifters, but for strong women, when you've got moving events, that's kind of where I came into my own. And it was just one of those days where everything kind of went to plan. I knew the first event was my weakest event, so I just wanted to get that out of the way and then be able to focus on everything else. But I remember at the end, so the stones was the last event, which is always timed, and then I remember there was quite a long wait where they were counting back because the points were so close. And there's a video somewhere where they're sort of reading out in reverse order, and when they didn't read out the fourth place, and I thought, well, I must have come third, and then they read out third place, and I was like, well, maybe I've got forgotten, and maybe I had got fourth, and it just hadn't really entered my mind that it was because I'd positioned further up. So wow. Yeah, it was a great day, and it was also the first time my son had come to watch me compete. My sister was there as well. So it was a great day, and actually, it was the first time I'd done a competition where family had been there, and the two girls that I trained with were there as well. So it was a great day, and it was all outside, and the weather was nice. It was just a great day. I think that's definitely. I had lots of competitions where I loved. I can't say that I loved competing. I liked the test. I liked the elements of being able to test my training. Never particularly enjoyed the pressures of competition or the all eyes, because I think it's everybody's watching you, and it's that, I think if we'd all been competing at the same time, it would have probably felt a bit different. But when everybody's kind of stopped to watch you, I wasn't one that ever really kind of thrived in that. But then I'd never really set out, where you got some people who set out and that's their goal, to compete at a certain level. That wasn't ever my goal. My goal was to, I went to the qualifiers originally to see where I kind of sat in, nationally. I knew I was doing well locally, but I didn't know how I was doing nationally, and ended up qualifying. And then with each competition, I kept qualifying again. So, I think for me, that it was a goal, what I would call like a next step goal. It was like a goal that was almost decided for me, rather than something I'd sat and said, right, this year and then next year, this is what I want to achieve. So yeah, I always enjoyed the challenge, the mental and physical challenge. Always enjoyed the atmosphere of being in that company with like-minded people. It was always really supportive. But yeah, the pressure of competition was never. You get some people who are like, you can see they are at their best in that environment. That, not so much. And I think also I was talking. I did a workshop for the local basketball girls team last week, and I was sort of talking about that. That the pressure of competition and how to bring your best self in competition, and also that kind of sport progression. When you're in that of tapping into your adrenaline and tapping into that extra energy that you get in that environment. But because of the job that I had done and was still doing up at that stage, for me, being under pressure was about being really calm and being kind of So whereas there were other people who were competing that were like, you know, really tapping into that kind of sport aggression, that sport arousal, I found that really difficult, because for me, when you were under pressure, I had learned over 20 years that actually when you're in that situation, to lower your heart rate, relax your breathing, and just kind of be, you know, a lot calmer. And so people used to say, like, you know, you always seem like incredibly calm. And I said, but that's how I am under pressure. So I almost had to try and learn to respond in a different way, because that wasn't helping. So
how interesting.
And that I found that really, really difficult.
Because actually you do, when you're in that competition, you need that little extra boost of adrenaline, don't you? You need that testosterone levels to be quite high. You know, you need to be able to push yourself.
And I find, you know, you know, when after that competition, I started training with a different group, and I was training with a group of guys, and they were all the time like, Zoe, you need to get more aggressive. You need to attack these events. And I was like, I want it to be there. It's just, you know, I'd spent 20 years in, you know, working for the police, where you have to be calm under pressure. You have to be, you know, take that step back, because aggression versus aggression doesn't work. So I found it really hard to tap into, because I spent a very long time learning how not to do that. So yeah, it was, I loved it. I mean, the strong woman journey for me was about 2 years, and I loved it. And I've met some amazing people who I'm still in touch with. It was the right decision for me to step away when I did, and put energies into something different. But yeah, it's nice to have a couple of trophies on the side there. Absolutely. Some great memories.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. It was really interesting.
Thank you for asking.
So quick question now, maybe not. Exercise alone or with others? Which do you prefer and why?
I actually like the social element of sport, which for an introvert is quite interesting for me, because I actually like my alone time. But from a training perspective, the majority of the things that I've chosen to do since school days have been team sports, or it's been training with other people, you know, in the park, running around, or in the gym, you know, that sort of you train. It's you versus you in terms of what you're achieving, but you're in a group of people who push you a little bit harder. I don't think you get that on your own. I think you can push yourself on your own, but I think being with other people just pushes you and encourages you that little bit more.
Sometimes you don't even notice that you're pushing yourself. Like when you play a team sport, often you're exerting yourself more, and it's much easier than it would be if you were trying to run as fast as you could for a set amount of time. But all those little fast sprints, in whether it's netball or football or hockey or basketball.
I think I think some of the stuff that I've enjoyed the most has been the things that almost kind of tap into that inner child, like, you know, racing and throwing stuff around, and just the things that, you know, just, it doesn't feel like exercise. It feels fun. You're being active, but it feels more like a fun game rather than something more than that. And I think that's probably, I think that, and learning something new is always, you know, I do miss that a little bit. But yeah, I think given the choice, it would be with other people.
With other people. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fourth. Oh no, I've got terrible Wi-Fi, so it's very hard to tell if I
No, I can see and hear.
Okay,
you. Yeah.
Keep flicking in and out. What is yours? This is the fifth and final question already. What is your favourite feel-good activity? Ooh. What really makes you feel good from the inside out? Could be exercise, or it could be something else.
So I think I think actually, just talking about what we've just been talking about, the team stuff. So a couple of years ago, so before Strong Woman, I was training with a group, and it was all people, you know, it was men and women, but a lot of us were in our 30s, but you know, we would do outside training. You know, we'd tire flip, we'd have running races, we'd be, you know, it would be lifting each other up, and I think if I was to look back at all of the things that I've done, I've enjoyed all of it for very different reasons, but I think the laughter and the fun and the not doing it for any other reason than this is fun to do. So I think with Strong Woman, I loved that, but it, you know, it became very much about competitions. It became much more serious. You know, team sports, quite often you're there to, you know, you're training for games, aren't you? And then there's a pressure to win. But I think that period of time, I think those two years, maybe 3 years that I was training with Apex and that group, we weren't really doing it for any reason at all other than the fact that we all enjoyed being active, and they made it fun. So you know, we'd have superhero games, so we'd be split into two teams, the heroes and the villains, and each one would turn up, and we'd, you know, as a team, we would go head to head in different events. And you know, one time we trained for a zombie apocalypse, you know, so we had a 6-week training plan where it was all physical activity and nutrition plans and things like that, but it was all just based around a fun theme. And so all of that was like for no reason. You know, there was no reason at all other than the fact we were all there because we all enjoyed doing it. And I think that period, and that was probably, I was probably in my best shape, at my fittest, but I had so much fun doing it. And it was, you know, when you get to the day of the week and it's like, okay, you know, we're off out training today, or a Saturday you do, you know, the boot camp, and it was something that you really looked forward to rather than something that you had to go and, you know, do because I haven't done my 20 minutes of activity today. You know, it was something that was fun, and we laughed, you know, it was just good fun. I think that of all of the things I've done, what would it be for you?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, it's basically it's big people outside generally. So I quite like, I mean, I used to love doing parkrun because there was that sense of community, and then there was the challenge of doing that. And then equally, I have done, I mean, I'm never going to be a super fast runner, but I do love doing the running events. So half marathon is the furthest I'd go. But finding interesting places to go and do a race, and then the way that you can almost build a community at the start, you know, and those kind of things I really love. But community is really important to me, and I think it's a big part. Like when you actually look forward to doing something is really useful too. So you know, making things fun. You know, we mentioned earlier on, I think talking about team sports a little bit about being connected to your inner child, and that sounds very much like, you know, talking about that period of your life where you had that, where it sounds like play. We all need to do.
But it doesn't matter what age you are, does it? When you're standing on a line and somebody says "ready, steady," it's like that.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't. You can't get away from that, can you? It's almost like it is that inner. It's just that it is. There is an element of it being competitive, but it's a fun
competition.
I think that. Yeah, I think you just to be able to go and let loose and not be. And I don't know whether it is. I mean, I know that. For me, fun is really important because this job is serious. The job that I had before was serious. So having fun, but it's also about not being responsible. It's about not, do you know what I mean? It's about that running around and, you know, the squealing and the screaming and just being, letting those responsibilities and not having to think about adulting for an hour while you run around in a field with other adults, and you're all behaving like children, but having fun and being active. And I think adulting is just far too serious for my liking.
the more play we can bring into our lives, the better. I am all for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would definitely like to be able to do. In fact, actually, my sister's rugby club in Lesleys do a fitness, because of COVID at the moment. They're doing fun fitness sessions, and so unfortunately work commitments mean I haven't got there, but I see some of the pictures of them all kind of working out, and I just think actually it's something that I would like to be able to get involved in again. So I think it's really important to find something, isn't it? But that's, you know, that's not for everybody, is it? Some people like the headphones or even
it's headspace
for a run and
yeah, like sometimes if life is really hectic and you're being peopled all of the time, then actually going out for a run on your own is absolute bliss. Yeah, definitely.
I wouldn't use the word bliss for me for running, but there is something. Yeah, bliss would not be the word that I would use, but definitely there's something very cathartic about that space and just being on your own and moving. And that's why running wouldn't be my first choice, but I would prefer to do that than nothing at all, than not moving and not doing anything. So yeah, it's kind of my like plan GH.
So quite far down.
Down the list. Yeah. But
it's good to have it accessible, you know, as you said, in lockdown you started running again because you know, and I think
lots of people started running in Couch to 5K has been very, very popular with people because most people have trainers and most people can run around the block. So it makes it was a very accessible, that and walking, wasn't it?
And we were all being told to go outside every day for an hour. I was like, oh, my work is done.
Yeah, going out for your Boris walk.
I've been saying for 6 years. Thank you. It's now a government directive.
Yeah, it was good. It was good, and also I think it was the other messages, wasn't it, about being active, taking time out to look after yourself, eating better. There were some good messages that came through.
Not on the whole been good, but you know.
Some of them.
But there was some really but then actually that's worth, I mean, not worth not leaving behind, you know. I feel a bit like that was brilliant at the beginning of lockdown, and that actually the conversation that's now going on around obesity has become much more negative. But actually you stick with the positives, that's actually much, you know, your brain will do that much better than you know, negative. It's like, oh right, okay, lockdown, like internally.
Yeah, it's like, you know, there some people have created some really good habits in lockdown, and that's what you need to
harness.
Shaping this new routine is making sure that you find ways to keep those going. And I think that's where your work and my work will come in helping people with that. But I think ultimately it's, you know, what did you enjoy that you want to keep going, and what habits and behaviors aren't now helpful that you want to leave behind. They're simple questions, aren't they? But the answer, putting those answers into something that shapes.
In fact, I did that last week or the week. I have an online coaching membership, and a bit like you, and that was the question a couple of weeks ago, or last week, was about reflecting on. So don't launch yourself into the new normal, but actually, how do you reflect on where you are now effectively? What was good, what was bad, and what have you learned from that that you keep or that you discard? I think it's really so
important. I think that's the thing, is just that I use the stop, think, act, review of, okay, stop what you're doing, just take a moment, just think things through. So I think, you know, Monday, on the first official day of schools going back, for anybody who's watching, sit down, stop and just think, okay, what do I want this week to look like, rather than just kind of keeping that going with a momentum that may not actually have you moving in a direction you want to move in.
That's what I've been doing. I dropped the kids off this morning and came back and just sat and listened to a guided meditation, because I was like, I've got a long list, but this is the most important thing today.
Yeah.
I did my 6:30 class, watched the sunrise. meditation, and then you get on and do it, don't you?
So I was awake at 6:30, but I was sat in bed with a coffee, but in the same way, thinking things through.
Absolutely.
It's just, yeah. And then later I will do some movement stuff. I've been out for a little walk, but later I will do the movement. But it is so important, because I think we just keep going, and it's like, okay, if you keep going, there's that great question, isn't there? If you keep going in the same direction at the same pace, where will you be in 12 months' time? Is it where you want to be? And I think that keeping going, doing more of the same, isn't always helpful. Sometimes stopping and thinking and just spending that time working it through is really important.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's a good place
so much. It's a good place to stop. Thank you so much for some really.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for answering my questions. Lots of wisdom.
It was nice. Yeah, I know this is the first one on this topic, so it was a good way to start, and hopefully there's some helpful. There is a comment there. So Jane says she likes the idea of the seasons and new start. So hopefully, as people are watching back, there's some useful information for people to take away as well. But if you can drop the link in the comments for your free challenge, and then if anyone is watching back today and wants to hop in on that, then it's a good opportunity to
all about this restart button, but in a really nice, gentle, knowing where you are sort of way. Not getting in the wrong car.
Perfect. And if you can drop your Facebook where we can find
you. I will do. Oh, thank you so much.
To come and find out more from you, they can find you nice and easily.
I can do it here or do it in there?
I can drop it. I think it was tagged in on the original post anyway, but I will, when I repurpose this, I will drop the links in as well, so people can find you nice and easily.
Thank you
so much for your help, for your questions, and for some really nice conversation. Really
always a pleasure to speak to you, Zoe. Bye.
Thank you.